Hi, in this tutorial, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks and actually show some extensions that will help you take your Google Classroom usage to the next level and making it a little bit more efficient and effective to use with your students. So hopefully some of these suggestions might help you kind of rethink the way that you've organized your Google Classroom. And it's always a great idea at the end of the year to kind of go through your Google Classroom and look at the way that things were set up and figure out, could this have been organized a little bit differently? I like to sometimes survey my class at the end of the year and ask them about the Google Classroom, what they liked about it, what they found confusing, ask them to be specific, because that really does allow us to kind of go back and reflect and figure out better ways of maybe organizing the way that we view our classroom. And it might make sense to us, but we also have to make sure that it makes sense to our students, because it may make sense to us, but perhaps for them, it might be a little confusing. So we always want to make sure that we're reflecting on that process. So a few suggestions with your Google Classroom. From the settings bar straight off, I would suggest that the best way to organize Google Classroom would be to hide the notifications from the classwork on your main stream. And the reason for this is, with everything posted on the stream, if you make announcements, every time you post something on Classwork, there's a notification on the stream that says something was posted. Students are just automatically going to click on that post and access the assignment, and they don't really get used to the fact of clicking on the Classwork tab. And clicking on the Classwork tab is important because it allows students to really get to know how to maneuver through Classroom, but it also shows them where in the topic it's located, where on the page it's located, and makes them view the assignment completely to make sure that they're looking at all the materials, all the instructions at once. So it's really important for them to be on that Classwork tab. And if we keep posting things and notifying it on the stream, by default, they're just going to stay on that stream and keep clicking on it. So I prefer to hide those notifications. It also cleans up the stream, because then it really gets bulky after a while. And so any announcements that you might make on the stream can get lost within the notifications of assignments being posted. And that way they get into the routine of having the stream for announcements and going into the Classwork tab to actually access and work on their assignments. Also, students can only comment on the stream. You do have the option of giving students the ability to post and comment. That really is up to you and the way that you structure your class, but commonly, and it's also depending on your age group, I would keep students can only comment, and the posting really is only up to the teacher. And that way students start to learn to comment. I wouldn't take away their commenting, because it does allow them to start to provide feedback and allow them to actually start to form questions and how to interact within a class setting in that sense. But not to give them the ability to post just yet. And that really, like I said before, depends on your class. If you have a more hands-on class that's more independent study, that's more directed, that your students lead it, maybe you do want to have that on, because they're actually posting things within the classroom that everybody needs access to. So that really is up to the teacher. One of the new features in Google Classroom now is that Google Meet does have a link that's generated specifically for each of your classrooms. So if you wanted to hold a Google Meet with your class, you have a specific link that's just within their class that's visible to the students within Classroom when they sign in, and they're only able to get it if they go into the classroom to access the link. So this is where you would turn that on or off. So if you're not going to use it, then you could leave it off, and that way that link is not visible to students. But if it's something that you're actively going to use, then you would go ahead and toggle that on. And so the Meet link would be available to your students within the classroom. Another feature within Google Classroom is the gradebook option. Now, I have a separate video that goes into the details of gradebook if you want to learn more about gradebook. I like to use the gradebook because it allows students to see their progress in class in multiple places. Sometimes our students may not be able to get into their gradebook for the district, or they forgot the login information. And this way, because Classroom is something that they access all the time, this does give them a picture of what their progress is in class. Just as well, if they're missing anything, they can see it within the gradebook in the classroom setting. So you are able to create the gradebook and weight it just like you would your district gradebook if you have weights. So you're able to set it as a weighted by category, or you could either just do it by total points if you're just doing it assignments. And you can decide whether or not you want to turn on that grade to show overall to each of the students. They can't see anyone else's, they can only see their own in their grade book, but it does allow them some idea of how they're doing in class. So that really is up to you. Like I said, I do like to use the grade book. All assignments that I grade that are in the district grade book are the same assignments that I create in Google Classroom, and I grade them here, and I provide them feedback, and I return it to them. So it is transparent between my classroom and the grade book to make sure that everything is posted in Classroom. It also keeps me accountable to make sure that all my assignments are in Classroom, because I'm grading them, and that way it's easy for me to transfer them over to my district grade book. So this is basically the settings page and how I would most effectively use it. Remember, if you make any changes, you do have to save it before clicking out of class settings. Within our main stream, since I've turned off the notifications, the only thing that students will see here are just my announcements. So any kind of announcements or messages that I make to my students will be in the stream, and that way it's not going to be bulky and it's not going to be overshadowed by any of the notifications that go in whenever I post things. So that makes the students have to go to the Classwork tab to be able to use the tab itself and be able to see their assignments. Now, the Classwork tab is really where most of our students are going to spend their time working in Classroom. So this really is the heart of our Google Classroom, and it's really important that we try to keep it as organized as possible. So one of the main ways to do that is to make sure that you are using your topics, right? The topics are extremely important because as we create assignments throughout the year, this stream here in the Classwork tab gets larger and larger and larger. And after a while, for students to start to scroll through everything and find what they're looking for becomes a lot harder. That's why it's important to use the topics, because they populate along the left, and that way for easy access, if they know what chapter they need to go to, then they can just click on the topic and that'll take them directly to that section where they can then find the assignment that they're using. So it's really important that you use those topics. Now, whether your class is divided into chapters, into units, into modules, however it is that you divide your class, you can use that to create topics. I just suggest that you choose one and stick to it and be consistent. If you're dividing everything within chapters, that's how they work, then all topics should always be within chapters, and so on. But make sure that you're using those topics. Within those topics, right, you create the assignments. And I also suggest that you number your assignments. So whenever I create an assignment, anything that my student has to turn in work that I am grading, that they're working on, is numbered. So I start with 001 becomes my first assignment, and I go through the numbers to the end of the year. Whether I'm down to assignment 120 at the end of the year, it doesn't matter. But all the assignments are numbered, and this is just another way to make sure that everything is organized. Something that I like to use within my Google Classroom, if you notice, is that I have these little icons or emojis that I use within my Google Classroom. And this is just another way of adding kind of organization and a way to break up your topics. Sometimes it can get a little monotonous with your topics. And so this allows it to break up the page a little bit to make things easier to separate. And I do this by installing an extension that is called a Joy Pixels. And this is something that you can install right from the Chrome Web Store. All my extensions will come from the Chrome Web Store. And so if you just search Joy Pixels, it's an extension that goes right next to the search bar. And it allows me to be able to access all of these different emojis and search for them and install those into my Google Classroom. So let me just go back into my classroom here that I exited out of. So it really is just as simple as if I create a topic and I wanted this next topic, I've wanted it to be chapter 3, whatever that topic title would be. Let's see, Age of Exploration, we'll call it. Now I can either go ahead and continue the same routine as I have for the others and go into my Joy Pixels and decide to do numbers. So this will be the 3rd chapter, so I'll use that. It's already been copied. Once I click on it, I can just Control V to paste it, right? And it has now created my next topic. And so I can do that for all of my chapters if I want a chapter to novel it. If I'm doing a novel study, right, I want my topic to have a book, I can search for a book. My class resources is this little file folder. So it really is up to you, but it's just another way of being able to kind of keep this a little bit more organized as well. The icons, the visual adds to that organization. And so once again, that extension is called Joy Pixels. And it goes right onto your book above your bookmark bar. Something else that you could also use within Google Classroom is Mote, M-O-T-E. And this is the way to be able to give feedback to your students. One of the great things about Google Classroom within Google is the ability to be able to provide feedback, whether it's class comments, whether it's private comments to your students, or whether it's comments directly onto their work. But it really is just as easy as installing it through the Chrome Web Store. It also installs just like the Joy Pixels into this extension bar. And you'll notice that once it's installed, this little purple icon with the M is going to appear next to your class comments. It'll also appear if I go into the assignment and I click on a specific student where I can actually give them private comments, you'll see it there. So everywhere that I have the ability to comment in Google Classroom, I can use the Mote feature. Within the assignment itself, as long as it's a Google assignment, it's a doc, a slide, or a sheet, within that itself, I can also use my Mote feature to be able to add comments. If I decide to actually comment within the file itself, so it's not just I want to add a general comment outside Google Classroom, but I want to comment specifically on that student's work that they did there. When I click on the comment option, there is the little purple Mote that will also show up there. Oops, let me allow that. Make sure you're gonna have to click allow to make sure it has access to your microphone. Sometimes it'll ask you twice. And then you'll see the little purple icon will show up. And so I can record there too. So I can do it on the file. I can do it within Google Classroom, but it's there. And it's another way to be able not to just type, but you can go ahead and add a voice comment. It does have a maximum of 90 seconds, so a minute and a half. It also has a transcribing feature. So you will be able to record your comment. And right now it's recording. You'll see that it's going and recording as I'm speaking right now. When I'm done giving my feedback, I just click on done. It takes a little while just to get through everything you just said. And now that student was going to get a link to be able to hear your voice comment, and it also transcribed my voice comment. So if I post that, there's my transcription, which transcriptions are not always exact. So you'll see that it's not going to be exactly what I just said, but they will be able to hear it. I can also turn off my transcriptions. If I go up to the Mote icon, I can toggle off the voice transcriptions since those are not always perfect, and I'd rather not have them the voice transcriptions and just have them listen to the audio. I can turn off the transcription and then it's not going to show up and they'll just hear the ability to hear it. Record your comment, and right now it's recording. You'll see that. And so you see it allows them. So this is another way to be able to leave your feedback. Instead of typing everything out, you could also use the Mote feature to be able to leave these audio comments within Google Classroom or within their assignments. As long as their assignments are Google assignments that are slides, sheets, and docs, you're able to use Mote. So let me go back into my main test classroom. Something else when it comes to using Google Classroom. The share to classroom feature, this is another extension if you haven't used it before. You can also use this extension to be able to share things to your classroom. So if I found a website that I wanted to share with my class, that I wanted them to read a certain article from a website that I found or something that I found online, I can go ahead and while I'm on that page, I can click on the extension share to classroom and it's going to load my classes. And then I have the ability to be able to push it out to my students. So this means that I can go ahead and take this website that I want to share with them and show it to my students. They'll push out the link and they can go ahead and automatically click on it. Now for the push to work, that means that your students also need to have the share to classroom extension installed. If they don't have it installed, then the push feature is not going to work. The other thing that I can do is that I can actually create an assignment using this website. So I can create an assignment with this link of the page that I wanted to share. Right now, it's not letting me because I'm on a main Google page. So let me just go ahead and go to any kind of website. I'll let that open up. And so it'll go ahead and provide a link to this page as an assignment. I can choose whatever class I want to give it to. So whether it's all of my classes or just one particular class that I want to go ahead and share this site to. And so now, as part of the materials, it will have the link to this particular website. And then I can actually go ahead and title this as whatever I want. I can make it a website discussion and put my instructions here. Please read, the following article. And I can provide them with whatever questions we want to talk about. And then I can go ahead and assign it into my Google Classroom. And so now if I go back into my classroom and I go ahead and refresh my page, I will find what I just finished posting. And there it is. So I don't have to make it an assignment as we were looking at before. The share to classroom extension, you can either push it, create an assignment. I can ask a question. So it can just be a simple read the assignment and then I can just ask a discussion question that they can answer. Or I can just put the link itself as an announcement and just be like, please click here. And I've made that announcement. If they don't have the push feature, then because they don't have the extension, I can still have all of my students go ahead and go onto that link because I can just provide the link as the announcement on this main stream. So the share to classroom feature is really nice because if it's something that you find as you're searching and you're looking at things on the fly or live, you can go ahead and easily provide access to that to your students in class. So that's another extension that you can also get from the Chrome Web Store. Something else to consider is that as you're working and creating assignments and chapters, you have the ability of being able to move all of your assignments and your topics just by grabbing and moving it. So one thing that I like to do is I like to keep at the top things that my students are currently working on. So my class resources page topic is always at the top because this is something that they'll always use. And that's something that you need to consider as you are organizing your classroom. Are there resources that your students access all the time that don't ever change. So it could be like a reference sheet that they need to use all year long. Maybe it's just your copy of your class syllabus that has a lot of different things or passwords or things like that that they need access to at all times. Then I can create a class resources topic and keep those things there at the very top because they're using them constantly. Now, if you have specific materials that go along with just specific chapters, and then they're not really going to use it again, then those would be materials that I would include as part of just that particular topic. And because they're not going to use it all the time. So that's something else to consider. What are things that are actual class resources that I'm going to use all the time? And what are materials that are just specific to specific content that they're only going to use when we're talking about that? And we're probably not going to revisit that later on. So if that's the case, then I would go ahead and create those materials and just include those under that specific topic. Now, when they're working on something, they're currently working. So right now we're currently working on the novel study, right? That's what they're working on right now. I would go ahead and take this and move that to the top of the stream because that's what they're working on. So right under class resources that they'll always have on top, then it will have the novel study. And that way they have easy access and it's easy for them to see that's always going to be at the very top. And so as we move through things, I would go ahead and do that. Just like you have the ability of rearranging assignments, you can either, if you use the numbering system and you want to do it in numeric order, then that's something that you can go ahead and leave it that way. I can also take if the assignment, the latest one, I want that to be at the top. So it's the first one that they see. Then I can go ahead and drag and drop and reorganize that however I want that to be. Now, this is really up to you. And yes, it can sometimes take a little bit of time if you go in and you have to reorganize it every week to keep things the way that you want to look like. But in the end, it makes it so much easier for the students to be able to stay organized and just to make sense to them. There's a lot that populates into this Google Classroom over the year. And so we need to consider that. And we also need to consider if there's things within the Google Classroom that maybe throughout the year we no longer need. So I would go ahead and maybe I want to delete it off the stream and we don't really need that on there necessarily anymore. You should also consider how many things you are posting under a topic because after about 10 assignments, they no longer show up on the stream. After about 10 assignments, there's a little teeny tiny drop down arrow that the students will have to click on to be able to view the rest of the things. So that's also something else to consider. Maybe are you creating too many assignments within a topic? Are there things that you can maybe consolidate into one assignment or put them into one material post where it's all there instead of having too many? Because once you get to 10, and that's a lot within a topic, then it's no longer viewable within the stream and they have to click on that drop down arrow to be able to access the rest of it. So that's just a little food for thought. So this basically is all of the different tips I have for you right now in terms of being able to kind of reorganize your Google Classroom a little bit more efficiently, kind of use all of the features to the best of their ability. And hopefully this has helped kind of spark some ways of maybe reorganizing your classroom. And really in the end, it's just about trying to keep it organized, trying to keep it effective, and really making it useful for our students. That's the purpose of it. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.